Cows that like burgers? We don't get it. This is just, it doesn't make any sense. There's no, in Urdu they say na sar na pair. There's no heads or tails to this thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's upside, it's topsy-turvy, it's complete nonsense. And وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ حَالِمِينَ بِعَالِمِينَ. Then they say that when it comes to interpreting senseless dreams, or dreams that you have that are convoluted images, we're not the ones who know that kind of thing. In other words, they could just say we don't know, right? When somebody asks you to give you an answer, you say I don't know. But these guys, Allah recorded their response as something more complex than we simply don't know. You can gather easily at the surface reading that they dismissed the king's dream and they said we don't know. Fine. But the thing is, sometimes you have people in very important positions, and the only reason they're in that position is they're able to answer questions. That's your job. Your job is, I present your problem, give me a solution. Well, if I keep telling you I don't know the answer, what's going to happen to my job? I come to you with a question, I don't know. I come to you another question, I don't know. I can't do that because then why am I keeping you on payroll? I think you need to go find a job where you do know, right? Because you're no good at this. So you're out of here. These guys need to keep their job. Job security is important. Where are they going to go? So you know what they do? They say, well, if I don't know the answer, maybe I can make my questioner feel like the question itself is ridiculous. That way, I don't have to feel like I need to answer to prove my qualifications because the question itself is ridiculous. You understand? So the best defense is what? Offense. So you turn the tables, and that way your own incompetence, you can't just come out and admit, maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. For some people, saying I don't know is hard. I'm not qualified is really hard. And when they get put in a corner enough where they have to admit they're not qualified, they turn around and say, actually, what you asked of me is irrelevant. So the project itself is faulty, not my inability to do it. You understand what I'm saying? So this is a very political maneuver, and it's no surprise that these are politicians that take this course. And in it, Allah is teaching us, perhaps embedded inside of it, a kind of response certain people have. They didn't just say we don't know what it means. They said وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ. Ahlam can actually mean, dreams with provocative images in them. Dreams that are nightmares can be called ahlam. Hulm, actually literally the word dream. There are two words for dream in Arabic, ru'ya and hulm. And hulm can be used for any dream, and it can be used for nightmares and provocative dreams. Ru'ya, however, is a shared word between dreams and also vision or seeing. If I see something, that's also ru'ya. And seeing a dream is also ru'ya. One of the ways that the Quran has done something interesting that doesn't happen in Arabic. In Arabic, if you use ahlam or you use ru'ya, both of them mean dream. Like for an Arab, even in ancient times, they wouldn't make a separation between ahlam and ru'ya. But the Quran makes a distinction. For ahlam is never used for dreams of prophets, true dreams. And ru'ya is always used for true dreams. And that's interesting because ru'ya is also related to actually seeing. So the word that's closer to reality is the one that's used in the Quran for actual precise dreams, or dreams that have a real interpretation behind them. But this dream, they look at it and they respond immediately, we can't help you with that. We don't know anything about these senseless dreams. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ حَالِمِينَ. We can interpret dreams that are just a mishmash of different things. I don't know what you ate last king. The biryani had too much masala in it, and that's why you just had nightmares. And they want to dismiss the question itself. Now, this part of the story, I'm not discussing any further what happens next, because that's a story by itself. What I want to take the rest of my time discussing with you is what I thought about when it came to these two ayat. What should I as a believer, before I give you a talk about it or share thoughts with you, what should I as a believer take away from these two ayat for myself? And I posed that question early on, yeah? So here's a few things that came to my mind, Allahu Ta'ala. The first of them is that human beings can never, ever calculate or foresee or make projections about Allah's plans. That's not possible for us. How does Allah plan to save Egypt from a famine that is coming 7 years later? He plans to save them by showing their king a dream, which he will mention in public, which will happen to be heard by the cupbearer, which will then happen to know or remember, ding, there's someone I know who knows dreams, and so on and so forth. And that's Allah's plan for saving hundreds of thousands of people from starvation from a dream. There's no way a human being we can make, countries make economic projections, right? People make career projections. This is what I plan to do. This is the degree I plan to get. This is how much I plan to save. People make plans for saving a house or building a nation, or we have projections and plans. For example, different countries have different approaches to deal with the COVID-19 crisis right now. And they have projections and plans for how to roll out or how to, reopen society and all of that stuff. And no matter what projections and plans we make, sometimes our projections and our plans are in line with the plan Allah has also. Other times, Allah has His own plan. And Allah's plan is so unpredictable, and there's no way you could logically imagine that would be a plan that human beings could ever even come close to. There's no way a human could say, here, you know what? If we really want Egypt to be saved, I think we should make sure the king gets plenty of sleep. But sooner or later, he might see a dream. That can't be part of human calculation. So the first thing that we should take away from this is that Allah's plans cannot be known to us. They cannot be known to us. We can only think about our own plans. And you know what, this is important? Because sometimes we have our own plans and we are so set on our expectations for our plans coming through, right? Before COVID-19 happened, me and a bunch of the kids here, we were planning a trip to New York, a road trip to New York. Of all places, New York, the epicenter of the virus. Can you imagine? And Allah had His own plan, right? And some kids were like, oh, we're going to go on a trip. But look at how Allah plans. We can make our little plans and projections and budgets, and there's the kind of van we can get, these are the stops we'll make, these are the masjids we'll pray at, etc., etc. Allah has His own plan. And we can't see how Allah's plan makes any sense to us. And that's actually the point. Allah's plan, at face value, a guy seeing fat cows and skinny cows makes no sense. Does it? It makes no logical sense. And actually, at one level, his advisor's saying, that's just a crazy, weird dream you saw, boss. Can't help you there. That's actually logical too. At one level, it's understandable because it sounds crazy. But this, what seems crazy to you and me is often a very elaborate, precise part of Allah's plan that you and I couldn't even begin to understand what the pieces of this puzzle are. You see, so for us, our plans are on one chessboard. And Allah owns way beyond this board that we can see are pieces of the puzzle that Allah controls, that when He makes His plans. That's the first takeaway, and that gives us a relief in just because I don't see Allah's plan acting out, doesn't mean there isn't a plan. I don't see it turning out the way I expect it to, doesn't mean nothing's happening. Something's always happening, and something doesn't have to be happening where you can see it. Yusuf is in prison, Yaqub is at home crying, and a king is talking to a bunch of advisors about fat cows, but it's all related. And this is not an Islamic halaqah, guys. This guy is just talking about cows eating cows. Beef on beef crime. That's what he's talking about. And at one level, you wouldn't think it has any significance at all. That's the first takeaway. The second takeaway to me is remarkable. Think about Yusuf alayhi salam and what his long shot was with the cupbearer. He was hoping that the cupbearer will go and somehow remind the king, right? Make mention, and somehow it will come into the consciousness of the king. And Allah's plan was exactly the opposite. Allah's plan was the king will express his dream, which will end up reminding the cupbearer. So it's not the cupbearer who reminded the king, it was the king who reminded the cupbearer of Yusuf alayhi salam.